Today's video is brought to you by Oxido LED lighting. You might think that you can see just fine at night. Well, I did too, until I did this little upgrade. As you can see from this footage, here is some before Oxido LED lighting, and here is some after Oxido LED lighting. The difference is amazing. With high brightness and easy installation, Oxido LED lighting is definitely the route for you. They're easy to install and they're available for all makes and models. Click on the link in the description below and enter promo code 612motorsports at checkout to get yourself 15% off. Now back to our video. Hello and welcome back to another episode of 612 Motorsports. In today's episode, we have a very interesting topic that we're going to be discussing, and some of you might be very surprised by what we're going to be talking about. Today's episode is all about brake dust. I know, right? Brake dust? Really? A whole YouTube episode on brake dust? Yes, an entire YouTube episode on brake dust. Grab some popcorn, fasten your seatbelts, grab yourself a nice comfy chair. But before we get too far into today's episode, you guys know the routine. Please go ahead and hit that subscription button, the notification bell, leave a comment, a thumbs up, all that stuff. It's super helpful and it's very greatly appreciated. Today we are talking about brake dust. So amazing, isn't it? It's everybody's worst nightmare, especially like for a person like me who is very into cars and their appearance and keeping them nice and tidy and fresh. I do have just a touch of the OCD, so I do like things super tidy. As a detailer, I was an automotive detailer for about 18 years or so, still dabble, but brake dust left uncleaned can definitely stain some rims and cause a lot of ugliness and some damage to expensive rims. We're going to talk about some of those things. First, we need an understanding of what brake dust really is. So when you press your brake pedal, you have a caliper squeezing two brake pads against your rotor, which is spinning. As that's happening, you're creating friction due to it slowing the vehicle down. That rubbing motion of the rotor still going in a circular pattern as the caliper is trying to pinch it, it's still wanting to spin, slowing you down. In that process, we are creating very fine particles that are being released from the brake pads, such as copper, we can have carbon, we can have anything in those depending on what your pads are made up of. Those little dust particles are what we see on a rim that is very dirty, that hasn't been cleaned very well, and also not just what we can see on the rim, but that's also what escapes out into the air, into the atmosphere, and that can also be a problem that a lot of people don't think about. Brake dust particles are extremely small, often smaller than 10 micrometers, making them very easy to inhale, which is bad for our health. And it's out in the air and the atmosphere, and it's also very bad for the ozone. Studies have shown that brake dust contributes to air pollution, particularly in urban areas where there's heavy traffic. These tiny particles can contain harmful substances such as heavy metals and organic compounds. When inhaled, these small particles enter your respiratory system, potentially causing or exacerbating respiratory problems and cardiovascular issues. So most of these environmentalists and clean air people, your activists, let's just say, they always go to one thing and one thing only: exhaust, right? That's why diesel vehicles have DEF fluid now. Diesel exhaust fluid, which helps burn some of that extra carbon out and whatnot. And while vehicles are trying to become more fuel efficient and whatnot, they say a lot of that exhaust is what's causing a lot of the air pollution, which makes sense. But they never take into account the fact that brake dust is a huge contributor to these things, because every car has 4 brakes. That's 4 times the amount of emissions coming off of each vehicle versus a single or a dual exhaust pipe. Now you might be thinking, what about electric vehicles, right? They don't release any emissions into the air because they're battery operated, correct? While it's true, EV vehicles have completely eliminated tailpipe emissions, they still have brakes. They're still emitting a certain amount. Some people could say it's still releasing too much negative byproduct into the atmosphere, still contributing to air pollution and to proper air quality and things of that nature. So if you were one of those people that went out and bought an electric vehicle because you wanted to save the planet, well, guess what? You're not really doing any more benefit to the planet than you were previously. You're just not spending money on gas. Electric cars often use regenerative braking, a system that converts kinetic energy into electric energy during acceleration. This technology helps reduce wear on the brake pads, but does not eliminate it. Electric vehicles still require friction brakes for stopping in emergency situations, and when the regenerative braking system has reached its limits. As a result, brake dust is still generated, although it's a smaller amount compared to combustible engine vehicles. Recent studies estimate that brake dust contributes to about 20% of all transportation-related particulate matter emissions. So while electric cars sufficiently reduce carbon emissions, we must not overlook the fact that we still have the brake dust and the emissions caused from that. You might be wondering what we can do to mitigate this issue. Well, there are a few steps. There are a few steps that we can take individually and as a society to help bring that pollution concentrated content down even lower. First off, regular maintenance of your car's braking system is imperative. By ensuring that your brake pads and rotors are in good condition, you can minimize excessive wear on your pads and rotors, helping reduce brake dust residue. Second of all, technological advancements in brake pads can mean a big difference. Researchers and manufacturers are constantly working on a very low or no brake dust brake product that will hopefully sooner than later be hitting the market. But until then, we're just stuck with what we have, and there are a few things that you can do to help with better brake pads. A higher quality brake pad is going to give you less brake dust, keep your wheels cleaner, better for the environment. Now, they do cost a little bit more money. They're gonna last a lot longer, they're gonna perform better, and they're gonna leave a lot less residue. And thirdly, urban planning is something that can be taken into consideration in helping with the pollution and all of that. Implementing measures like traffic management, promoting and using public transportation. Brake dust might not be as well-known form of bad emissions, but it's very crucial and it's on the rise, so people should be aware of this because honestly, people kind of sound like idiots sometimes when they talk about green this, green that, save the planet, blah, 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 fossil fuels, electrics, the way to go. But honestly, it's not. You still need a lot of extra things for the electric vehicle. Unfortunately, we'll be getting into this in a different video in another time, but the batteries in electric vehicles are harming people as far as the materials in them used to manufacture. They're coming from third world countries where there's less guidelines and restrictions and safety implications for mining and gathering some of these materials, and they're really causing a lot of harm. It's kind of like how the old blood diamond thing used to be. It's just not good. And once people kind of start realizing that, I have a feeling the EV thing is not really gonna be as big as expected. But we'll get more into the battery end of the electric vehicles and how they're bad for the environment in another video. By understanding the implement of brake dust to the environment and helping figure out a way to curb that some, we can ensure a cleaner, safer environment regardless of what type of vehicle you drive.